The following content is provided for educational and entertainment purposes only. The discussion of automotive performance, modifications, and high-speed driving reflects historical trends, case studies, and engineering theory. This video does not constitute professional mechanical, legal, or financial advice. All driving should be conducted in accordance with local traffic laws and on sanctioned racetracks where appropriate. Modifying a vehicle can void warranties, impact insurance coverage, and potentially compromise safety or emissions compliance. Viewers must conduct their own due diligence and consult with certified professionals before attempting any vehicle modifications or high-performance driving maneuvers. Picture this. You are sitting at a red light on a humid night in Miami. To your left, a $200,000 Italian supercar is idling, its V12 engine screaming for attention with a high-pitched metallic rasp. The driver is checking his reflection in the rearview mirror, confident that nothing on this stretch of asphalt can touch him. To your right, there is a dusty, beige sedan that looks like it belongs in the parking lot of a local grocery store, perhaps driven by a high school geography teacher. It is quiet, unassuming, and sits on plain silver wheels. The light turns green. Within 3 seconds, the Italian masterpiece is staring at the fading taillights of that beige sedan. This is not a glitch in the matrix, and it is not a fluke of physics. You have just witnessed the apex predator of the automotive underworld, the Q car. In the United States, we often call them sleepers, but the term Q car carries a weight of historical deception that goes far deeper than a simple engine swap. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the most dangerous vehicles on the American road, the ones that look like a boring commute but perform like a weekend at Le Mans. We are diving into the engineering, the psychology, and the hidden history of the cars that prove looking fast is often the best way to lose. The problem for the modern American car enthusiast is twofold. First, flashy cars attract the wrong kind of attention. Whether it is the local highway patrol looking to meet a quota or a car thief looking for a high-value target, driving a bright red sports car is essentially like wearing a neon sign that says, "Arrest me" or "Rob me." Second, the cost of entry for genuine performance has skyrocketed. However, there is a solution hidden in plain sight. By understanding the philosophy of the Q car, you can access a world where performance is prioritized over prestige, and where the thrill of the drive is kept between you and the odometer. This masterclass will break down the historical trends of these mechanical chameleons, showing you how to spot them, how they are built, and why they continue to dominate the US car culture despite having zero curb appeal. To understand the Q car, we must first look at its namesake. The term originates from the Q ships of the British Royal Navy during the First World War. These were heavily armed merchant vessels that carried concealed weaponry. They looked like helpless, slow-moving targets to German U-boats, but the moment a submarine surfaced to engage, the Q ship would drop its false bulkheads to reveal massive cannons and depth charges. The goal was total deception. In the automotive world, the philosophy remains identical. A Q car is a vehicle with high performance but an unassuming exterior. It is the ultimate exercise in restraint. In the United States, this trend began to take root in the post-war era when manufacturers realized they could drop their most powerful V8 engines into their most basic, entry-level coupes. Take, for example, the historical trend established by the 1955 Chrysler 300. While many point to the GTO as the start of the muscle car era, the C300 was the original sleeper. It used a 331 cubic inch firepower Hemi V8, but from the outside it looked like a standard, dignified luxury coupe. It was capable of reaching speeds that would leave contemporary sports cars in the dust, yet it could be parked at a country club without raising an eyebrow. This established a blueprint that would be refined over decades. Maximize the mechanical output while minimizing the visual footprint. The engineering of a true Q car involves a meticulous attention to what we call stealth performance. This is not just about having a big engine. It is about the integration of that power into a chassis that does not broadcast its capabilities. One of the primary case studies in this field is the Buick Grand National and its even more secretive sibling, the GNX. In the mid-1980s, while Ferrari was using wedge-shaped designs and pop-up headlights to signal speed, Buick took a boxy Regal, painted it black, and installed a turbocharged V6 that could out-accelerate a Chevrolet Corvette of the same year. The GNX did not have a massive wing or flared fenders. It had a presence, yes, but to the uninitiated, it looked like a sinister brick. The potential outcomes of this design were legendary. It became a cult icon specifically because it broke the rules of what a fast car was supposed to look like. In the modern US market, the Q car has evolved. We see this in vehicles like the Chevrolet SS, which was sold between 2014 and 2017. To the casual observer, the SS looks like a slightly larger Malibu, perhaps a rental car from a mid-tier airport fleet. But underneath that bland sheet metal sits a 6.2-liter LS3 V8 producing 415 horsepower, paired with a sophisticated magnetic ride control suspension and Brembo brakes. It is a four-door sedan that handles like a dedicated track car. The brilliance of the SS is that it bypasses the social and legal baggage of a Camaro or a Corvette. When a law enforcement officer sees a Chevrolet SS traveling at the speed of traffic, their eyes often glide right over it. That invisibility is a key component of the Q car's dominance on U.S. streets. Furthermore, we must analyze the technical details that allow these cars to function so effectively. A major factor is the sleeper exhaust setup. In a traditional performance build, enthusiasts often opt for loud, free-flowing exhausts that announce their arrival 3 blocks away. A Q car builder, however, will utilize high-flow resonators and stealth mufflers. The goal is to maintain the back pressure benefits and flow rates required for high horsepower, while keeping the decibel level close to a factory idle. This allows the driver to utilize the full potential of the engine, without drawing unwanted attention. Another technical aspect is the wheel and tire package. Many sleepers will run sleepers or steelies, basic steel wheels, that have been widened to accommodate high-performance rubber. From a distance, it looks like the car is running on spares or base model equipment, but the actual contact patch is designed for maximum grip during a launch. The psychological appeal of the Q car in the United States cannot be overstated. There is a deeply ingrained American love for the underdog. When a vehicle that looks like it should be carrying groceries outperforms a vehicle that looks like it belongs on a poster in a teenager's bedroom, it creates a cognitive dissonance that enthusiasts find incredibly satisfying. It is the ultimate gotcha moment. Moreover, there is the practical element of insurance and depreciation. Generally, vehicles that are perceived as high risk or high performance carry higher insurance premiums. By driving a vehicle that is technically classified as a standard sedan, but possesses the heart of a racer, some owners find they can enjoy high performance with potential outcomes of lower ownership costs compared to traditional sports cars. As we move forward in this deep dive, we will examine the specific components that make a sleeper viable in the 21st century. We will look at how electronic control unit tuning has allowed modern turbocharged 4-cylinder and 6-cylinder engines to reach power levels that were once reserved for big block V8s, all while retaining a quiet, civilized demeanor. We will explore the used car market to identify which boring vehicles have the strongest bones for a Q car build. And we will analyze the historical data of factory sleepers that have held their value better than their flashy counterparts. This is not just about going fast. It is about the art of deception and the mastery of the mechanical world where the only thing that matters is what is under the hood, not what is on the badge. Stay with us as we deconstruct the world of Q cars, starting with the most overlooked platforms currently dominating American boulevards. To understand why the Q car is more relevant in 2026 than ever before, we have to look at the current state of American infrastructure and law enforcement technology. We are living in an era of pervasive high-speed camera networks and automated acoustic sensors that can flag a modified exhaust from half a mile away. In this environment, the loud neon-wrapped supercar is a liability. The modern Q car, however, is a master of signal processing. It generates high performance while remaining below the noise and visual thresholds of modern urban monitoring. This brings us to our first major case study of the modern era, the 2018 to 2022 Honda Accord 2.0T. Imagine a driver named Marcus in Atlanta, Georgia. It is a Tuesday afternoon on the I-85. Marcus is driving a car that, to 99% of the population, looks like an accountant's daily driver. It is painted in a muted sonic gray pearl, has 4 doors, a sunroof, and a trunk large enough for a week's worth of groceries. But under the hood sits the K20C4 engine. This is essentially a slightly detuned version of the heart found in the legendary Civic Type R. While the Type R screams for attention with its massive wing and red accents, the Accord 2.0T hides its potential behind a chrome-slatted grille. The historical trends of this specific platform show a fascinating trajectory in the secondary market. Because it was sold in high volumes, the availability of parts is massive, yet its sleeper status remains intact. Let us break down the technical step-by-step of why this car dominates. The K20C4 utilizes a smaller, high-response turbocharger compared to the Type R. This means that in a real-world scenario, pulling away from a stoplight or merging onto a highway, the Accord achieves peak torque of 273 pound-feet at just 1,500 revolutions per minute. In contrast, many dedicated sports cars require the engine to scream toward 4,000 or 5,000 revolutions per minute to find their power. Marcus can initiate a high-speed maneuver with almost zero delay, and more importantly, without the dramatic downshifts that signal intent to everyone else on the road. The potential outcomes for a vehicle like this are further amplified by the 10-speed automatic transmission. This is not the sluggish gearbox of your grandfather's sedan. It is a highly sophisticated unit capable of 4-gear skips. When Marcus decides to accelerate, the car can drop from 10th gear directly to 6th, instantly putting the engine in the meat of its power band. To the driver in the adjacent lane, Marcus hasn't even broken a sweat. He has simply disappeared. Now let us look at the visual deconstruction of a modern sleeper, a process known as debadging. This is the first step for any serious Q car enthusiast in 2026. The goal is to remove every single identifier that points to the car's performance trim. For Marcus's Accord, this means removing the 2.0T emblem and the sport or touring script from the trunk. The process is a meticulous mechanical ritual. First, you use a heat gun or a high-powered hairdryer to soften the adhesive behind the plastic lettering. You must move the heat source constantly to avoid bubbling the clear coat. Once the adhesive is pliable, you use a piece of high-strength dental floss or fishing line to saw behind the emblem, separating it from the paint. The remaining residue is tackled with a citrus-based adhesive remover and a microfiber cloth. The final step involves a light polish and wax to ensure there is no ghosting, the faint outline of where the letters once lived. When finished, the car is a blank canvas. To a police officer or a rival driver, it is simply a Honda. Not a performance Honda, just a Honda. Moving from the sedan world to the SUV segment, we find one of the most effective sleepers currently patrolling U.S. suburbs, the Ford Explorer Saint. In the year 2026, the roads are saturated with 3-row family haulers. The Explorer ST utilizes the 3.0-liter EcoBoost V6, a twin-turbocharged powerhouse that delivers 400 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque from the factory. Case studies of this platform show that with a simple recalibration of the engine control unit, these numbers can climb significantly without changing a single physical bolt on the engine. Consider the psychology of the Explorer ST on a rainy night in Seattle. You see a large black SUV. You assume it is a parent heading to a soccer practice. You do not expect a vehicle that can hit 60 miles per hour in approximately 5 seconds. The Explorer ST benefits from its relationship with the Police Interceptor utility. Because so many police departments use this chassis, the ST blends into the background of American traffic with an almost supernatural efficacy. It possesses an authoritative stance that most drivers subconsciously respect and clear a path for, yet it lacks the aggressive styling cues that would make it stand out as a target for enforcement. The engineering secret here is the intelligent four-wheel drive system. In a Q car, traction is everything. A rear-wheel drive sports car with 700 horsepower is impressive, but if it cannot put that power to the ground without spinning its tires and creating a cloud of smoke, it has failed the sleeper test. Smoke and noise attract attention. The Explorer ST and similar all-wheel drive sleepers utilize sophisticated torque vectoring systems to distribute power to the wheels with the most grip. This results in a silent surgical launch. There is no drama, no screeching rubber, just an immediate and forceful relocation of the vehicle across space and time. Another technical detail to examine is the rise of active noise cancellation in modern Q cars. Manufacturers like Buick and Audi have perfected the art of using the car's audio system to emit inverse sound waves that cancel out engine drone and road noise. For the sleeper enthusiast, this is a dream. You can have a high-output engine working at maximum capacity, but inside the cabin, the experience remains serene. Outside, the car remains significantly quieter than a traditional performance car with a loud exhaust. Let us look at the data regarding the sleeper's mechanical longevity. A common misconception is that these cars are ticking time bombs. However, historical trends suggest that because many of these sleeper platforms were designed for high-mileage commuting and family use, their cooling systems and internal components are often over-engineered for durability. For instance, the transmission in a heavy SUV like the Explorer ST is designed to tow 5,000 pounds. When it is not towing, that massive thermal capacity can be used to manage the heat generated by high-speed driving. This gives the Q car a distinct advantage in terms of sustained performance over several miles compared to a delicate, highly strung exotic car that may suffer from heat soak. Imagine if you could take this a step further. Imagine a vehicle that uses no fuel at all. In 2026, the ultimate Q car might not even have an internal combustion engine. There is a specific breed of electric vehicles that are being modified to look like base model commuters, while possessing acceleration figures that were once the exclusive domain of hypercars. We are seeing a trend where owners of high-performance EVs are swapping their large, branded brake calipers for smaller-looking, high-performance units and replacing their carbon fiber accents with plastic-look wraps. But even with all this modern technology, the heart of the Q car movement remains in the garage of the DIY builder. The ability to take a discarded high-mileage chassis and turn it into a giant slayer is a uniquely American pursuit. It requires a deep understanding of parts compatibility across different model years. It is about knowing that a certain turbocharger from a 2024 truck will bolt directly onto the manifold of a 2019 sedan. It is about the hidden connections that the manufacturers never intended for us to find. As we conclude this exploration of modern platforms, we have to ask ourselves, what happens when you take these principles and apply them to the most overlooked vehicles in the junkyard? What if you don't have $40,000 for a late model Accord or Explorer? What if your budget is $5,000 and you have a set of wrenches? In the next part, we are going to dive into the world of junkyard jewels. We will look at the specific engine codes and transmission pairings that you can find for pennies on the dollar to build a sleeper that can embarrass a six-figure supercar. We are moving from the showroom to the salvage yard to find the raw materials for the ultimate undercover build. Welcome to the modern graveyard of American steel, the local salvage yard. In 2026, these are not just piles of scrap. They are the high-performance pharmacies for the Q car enthusiast. While the average consumer sees a wrecked 2005 Chevrolet Silverado as a total loss, the sleeper builder sees a donor heart capable of producing 1,000 horsepower with the right pressure. We are entering the era of the iron block renaissance. The foundation of the budget Q car movement in the United States is built upon the General Motors LS-based small block engine, specifically the Vortex series found in millions of trucks and SUVs. Imagine a builder named Sarah in Phoenix, Arizona. Sarah has a budget of $5,000 and a 1994 Volvo 940 wagon that she bought for $800. To anyone on the street, this is a slow, safe Swedish brick. But Sarah is hunting for a specific casting number in the salvage yard, the LM7. This is the 5.3-liter displacement version of the Vortex engine. Historical trends show that these iron block engines are significantly more durable than their aluminum siblings when subjected to high levels of forced induction. In the world of sleepers, weight is a secondary concern to reliability under stress. The step-by-step process of identifying a prime donor engine in a yard is a masterclass in mechanical forensic science. First, Sarah looks for a vehicle that was involved in a rear-end or side impact collision. This is a crucial indicator. If the vehicle was crashed, it was likely running and driving right up until the moment of the accident. An engine sitting in a car with a pristine body but a missing transmission is a red flag. It likely died of mechanical failure. Once she identifies a 2002 to 2006 Tahoe or Silverado, she performs the forbidden milkshake test. She removes the oil fill cap and looks for a milky tan residue. If she finds it, there is a coolant leak, likely a blown head gasket or a cracked head, and she moves on. Next, she uses a breaker bar on the crank bolt to ensure the engine rotates freely. If it turns, it has the potential for a second life. The genius of using these truck engines for a Q car build lies in the cross-compatibility of the GM ecosystem. Sarah can take the high-flowing intake manifold from a late-model car and bolt it directly to her truck engine to lower the profile, allowing it to fit under the flat, unassuming hood of her Volvo. Potential outcomes for this specific setup are staggering. With a used turbocharger source from a local diesel shop and a basic intercooler hidden behind the Volvo's square grille, Sarah's wagon can produce 600 wheel horsepower. From the outside, the car remains faded beige. Still has the roof rack. It still has the original skinny wheels, though she has hidden a pair of drag radials on black steel rims for the rear. Let us pivot to the Japanese side of the salvage yard. In 2026, the K-Series engine from Honda has become the gold standard for high-revving, small-displacement sleepers. But the secret is not in the Civic C. It is in the 2002 to 2006 Honda CR-V or the Acura TSX. These vehicles contain the K24A2 or K24Z engines. Imagine a character named Leo in Chicago. Leo finds a rusted-out 1992 Honda Civic hatchback. He strips the interior but leaves the exterior looking like a weathered commuter. He swaps an AK-24 engine from a crashed CR-V. The technical reason for this dominance is the cylinder head flow and the stout bottom end. The K24 offers more torque than the smaller K20, making it ideal for a heavy-hitting street car that needs to move off the line without excessive wheel spin. Leo's build strategy involves a stock block approach. Historical trends in the tuning community have shown that these engines can handle significant boost on factory internals. By utilizing an affordable engine management system, Leo can map the car to run on E85 fuel, which is widely available across the United States in 2026. E85 provides a higher octane rating, acting as a chemical intercooler and allowing for more aggressive timing. The result is a Civic that sounds like a lawnmower at idle, but possesses the power-to-weight ratio of a modern supercar once the turbocharger spools up. But how do you handle the power without shattering the car? This is where the transmission choice becomes a critical chapter of our masterclass. In the salvage yard, Sarah and Leo are not just looking for engines. They are looking for the 4L80E transmission from heavy-duty GM trucks or the CD0096 6-speed manual from a Nissan 350Z. The 4L80E is essentially a legendary turbo 400 with an overdrive gear. It is heavy, it is parasitic, but it is nearly indestructible. For a high-horsepower sleeper, the ability to shift gears under full load without the transmission case splitting open is the difference between a successful night and a call to a tow truck. Step by step, the integration of these components requires a harness merge. This is often the most intimidating part for a novice builder. In 2026, the strategy is to use a standalone wiring harness that bypasses the car's original, aging electrical system. This allows the engine to run independently of the chassis, meaning Sarah's Volvo doesn't need to know it has a Chevy heart. It only needs to provide a 12-volt signal to the fuel pump and the starter. Another layer of the Q car deception is thermal management stealth. A large, shiny aluminum intercooler sitting in the front bumper is a dead giveaway. To avoid this, professional sleeper builders use blackout coating. This is a specialized, thin-film heat-dissipating paint that makes the intercooler invisible in the shadows of the bumper. They also use stock-look plumbing, often painting high-performance silicone hoses with a matte black finish, or using heat-shrink tubing to mimic the appearance of standard rubber radiator hoses. Consider the case study of a 2004 Lexus GS300, found in a Florida salvage yard. To the untrained eye, it is just an old luxury sedan with a peeling clear coat, but it houses the 2JZG engine. While it lacks the twin turbos of the famous Supra engine, the block and crank are largely the same. In 2026, the NAT, naturally aspirated to turbo, conversion is a science. By adding a thick head gasket to lower compression and bolting on a manifold, a builder can create a junior Supra that looks like something a grandmother would drive to church. The GS300 even retains its plush leather seats and wood-grain dashboard, providing a surreal contrast when the driver is pinned back by 20 pounds of boost. The cost-to-performance ratio here is unparalleled. A modern supercar might cost $200,000 to achieve a 10-second quarter-mile time. A meticulously built salvage yard Q car can achieve the same result for under $10,000, including the price of the car. This is the ultimate democratization of speed. However, building a monster from a junkyard is only half the battle. Once you have the power, you have to know where to hide it. There is an entire world of high-end stealth that doesn't involve rusted fenders or salvage yards. What if you have the budget for a luxury car, but you want to maintain a completely professional, corporate image while holding a secret weapon in your hands? What if the ultimate sleeper isn't a modified Volvo, but a factory-built German executive sedan that was never meant to be this fast? In the next part, we are moving out of the grease and grime of the salvage yard and into the polished world of the executive assassins. We will uncover the German and American luxury sedans that come from the factory with hidden launch control and twin turbocharged V8s, designed to dominate the Autobahn and the US interstate system without ever looking out of place in a boardroom parking lot. Stay tuned, because the next level of the Q-car world involves cars that are so fast, the factory had to electronically limit them just to keep the tires from disintegrating. When we transition from the gritty world of salvage yards to the glass-walled headquarters of corporate America in 2026, the Q-car philosophy undergoes a radical shift in execution, though the intent remains identical. This is the realm of the executive assassin. These are vehicles that cost more than a suburban mortgage, but are engineered to be invisible to the common observer. In this part of our masterclass, we are analyzing the German and American luxury sedans that are essentially land-bound private jets with the heart of a predator. The goal here is not to save money, but to move at speeds that defy physics while maintaining the social standing required for a high-level boardroom meeting. Imagine an executive named Christopher in New York City. Christopher drives a 2024 Audi S8 in Daytona Gray. To the parking valet at his firm, it is just another high-end German lease. It has a long wheelbase, chrome accents, and an interior filled with Falcona leather and carbon fiber inlays. However, hidden beneath that dignified exterior is a 4.0-liter twin-turbocharged V8 engine, assisted by a 48-volt mild hybrid system. The technical data reveals a potential outcome of 563 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque, delivered with surgical precision. But the brilliance of the S8 as a Q car lies in its predictive active suspension. Using a front-facing camera, the car scans the road ahead and uses electromechanical actuators to lift or push down each wheel individually. This means that while Christopher is navigating a pothole-ridden stretch of the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway, the car remains perfectly level. If he chooses to accelerate, the car does not squat. It simply moves forward with a relentless linear force that makes 60 miles per hour feel like a slow crawl. The historical trends of the Audi S line suggest a commitment to this understated aesthetic. Unlike their RS counterparts, which feature flared fenders and massive air intakes, the S8 uses subtle quad-exit exhausts and slightly larger wheels as its only visual tells. For Christopher, this is a strategic choice. He can arrive at a high-stakes negotiation without looking like he is having a midlife crisis, yet he possesses the mechanical capability to outpace almost anything on the highway during his commute back to Connecticut. Moving across the German landscape, we find the Mercedes-Benz E63 S-AMG. In the United States, this car has become a legend of the sleeper world, especially when owners opt for the business package. This was an option historically available in Europe that many US enthusiasts replicate by debadging the trunk and swapping the aggressive AMG wheels for more conservative, high-performance alternatives. Imagine if you were driving a car with 603 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque that looked, to the untrained eye, like a standard E-Class diesel used by a suburban real estate agent. The E63S utilizes the M177 engine, a 4.0-liter biturbo V8 that is hand-built by a single technician. One of the most advanced technical features of this Q car is the AMG Performance 4MATIC Plus all-wheel drive system. It features fully variable torque distribution, meaning it can send 100% of the power to the rear wheels in drift mode, or split it evenly for maximum traction in a rainstorm. This allows for a case study in versatile performance. A driver can leave a stoplight in a torrential downpour with zero-wheel spin, leaving sports cars struggling for grip in the rearview mirror. The step-by-step process of utilizing this power involves the dynamic select system. In comfort mode, the exhaust valves remain closed, and the transmission shifts early to keep the engine quiet and efficient. But with the turn of the dial to Sport Plus, the engine mapping changes, the suspension stiffens by 30%, and the car becomes a different animal entirely. We cannot discuss executive assassins without mentioning the BMW M5, specifically the F90 generation. Historical trends show that the M5 has always been the benchmark for the super sedan, but the F90 took it to a new level of undercover capability. It was the first M5 to feature MX Drive, an all-wheel drive system that could be switched to pure rear-wheel drive. Think about the engineering required to make a 2-ton luxury sedan accelerate from 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds. This is achieved through a combination of the S63 twin-turbo V8 and the ZF 8-speed automatic transmission. The ZF unit is a masterpiece of modern engineering. It provides the smoothness of a torque converter for city driving, but can execute shifts in milliseconds when the driver is at full throttle. To keep the Q car profile, many M5 owners in 2026 are opting for individual paint colors like frozen dark gray, which absorbs light and makes the car's aggressive lines almost disappear at night. Then we have the American response to this German dominance, the Cadillac CT5V Blackwing. This is perhaps the most visceral Q car currently available on US streets. While it looks remarkably similar to a base model Cadillac that you might find in a rental fleet, the Blackwing is a mechanical masterpiece. It features a 6.2-liter supercharged V8, producing 668 horsepower. It is one of the last high-performance sedans to offer a 6-speed manual transmission, making it a purist dream. The technical secret to the Blackwing's handling is the Magnetic Ride Control 4.0. This system uses sensors to read the road 1,000 times per second and adjusts the damping fluid's viscosity using electromagnetic coils. This allows the car to be as soft as a classic Cadillac on the highway, but as stiff as a race car the moment you enter a sharp corner. A critical aspect of these executive assassins is the use of active noise cancellation and acoustic glass. Manufacturers use microphones inside the cabin to pick up low-frequency engine drones, and then play the exact opposite frequency through the car's high-end speakers to neutralize the noise. This is why these cars are so deceptive. In a traditional sports car, the noise provides a sensory warning of the speed you are traveling. In an S8 or a Blackwing, you can be traveling at triple-digit speeds in total silence, isolated from the outside world by double-paned glass and sophisticated software. Step by step, the maintenance of these vehicles is what separates the casual owner from the true Q-car aficionado. Because these engines are operating at such high pressures and temperatures, the cooling systems are incredibly complex. They often feature multiple radiators and independent cooling loops for the turbochargers to prevent heat soak. Case studies of these platforms show that neglecting oil changes or using substandard fuel can lead to catastrophic failures. In 2026, many owners are using remote telematics to monitor their car's health in real time, ensuring that their sleeper is always ready to perform at its peak. The potential outcomes of owning such a vehicle go beyond just speed. There is a psychological benefit to the stealth approach. In high-traffic American cities like Los Angeles or Chicago, a bright orange supercar is a magnet for unwanted competition and law enforcement scrutiny. An executive assassin allows the driver to navigate these environments with a sense of calm. You know you have the power to win any encounter, but you have nothing to prove. It is the automotive equivalent of a heavyweight boxer wearing a bespoke Italian suit. However, as we look toward the future of the Q-car, a new player has entered the field. One that does not use a V8, does not have an exhaust note, and can accelerate faster than anything we have discussed so far. The rise of the electric sleeper is the next frontier of this movement. Imagine a car that looks like a basic family commuter, but possesses the instant torque to humiliate $1 million hypercar in a straight line. In the next part, we are going to explore the world of silent killers. We will look at the specific EV models that are being used to dominate the drag strips and streets of the US, and how the lack of engine noise is the ultimate tool for the modern Q-car builder. We are moving from the roar of the V8 to the hum of the high-voltage motor. What happens when the fastest car on the block makes no sound at all? Stay tuned for the deep dive into the electric revolution of the sleeper car. The silence of a 2026 American midnight is no longer a sign of inactivity. It is the primary tactical advantage of the new era of Q-cars. We are witnessing a fundamental shift in the physics of deception. In the previous decades, a fast car was synonymous with a loud car. You heard the high-lift cams loping at a red light, the whine of a supercharger, or the distinct whistle of a massive turbocharger. In 2026, the most dangerous sleepers on the street make less noise than a household refrigerator. We have entered the age of the silent killer. This is not just about environmental consciousness. It is about the ultimate exploitation of the human sensory system. If you cannot hear it coming, and it looks like a mass-market appliance, you have no way to prepare for the potential outcomes of a confrontation. Imagine a driver named Jordan in the suburbs of Austin, Texas. Jordan is 34 years old, an engineer by trade, and he drives a 2024 Tesla Model 3 Performance, the one with the Highland refresh. On the surface, this car is the quintessential modern commuter. It is white, has no visible exhaust pipes, and looks exactly like the other 400 Teslas in his office parking lot. To the casual observer, Jordan is just another person concerned with high-occupancy vehicle lane access and charging infrastructure. But the technical reality of Jordan's car is a case study in latent violence. The 2024 and 2025 Highland Performance models introduced a new generation of drive units that utilize silicon carbide inverters. The engineering behind this is critical. Silicon carbide allows for much higher switching frequencies with significantly lower heat loss compared to traditional silicon-based inverters. For Jordan, this means the car can dump massive amounts of current from the battery pack into the motors with near-instantaneous response. While an internal combustion engine has to wait for air to be sucked in, compressed, ignited, and pushed out, a process that takes hundreds of milliseconds, Jordan's electric motors respond in less than 10 milliseconds. This is the shelf of power. In a traditional car, you have a power curve where torque builds as RPM rises. In an electric Q car, you have a power shelf. The torque is at its maximum at 0 RPM and stays there. Step by step, Jordan has optimized his sleeper for the year 2026. The first thing he did was remove the performance badge and the carbon fiber spoiler. He replaced the staggered 20-inch wheels, which are a dead giveaway of the high-performance trim, with a set of 18-inch aero wheels from a base model long range. To the eye, these wheels look like plastic covers designed for efficiency. However, hidden behind those covers is a set of high-performance summer tires with a compound designed for maximum lateral grip. This is the modern version of the steel wheel sleeper. He even went as far as to install a software exploit known in the enthusiast community as a ghost module. Historical trends in the EV world show that manufacturers often over-engineer their hardware and then use software locks to differentiate between trims. A ghost module intercepts the signals between the accelerator pedal and the powertrain control module, tricking the inverters into bypassing factory power limiters. The potential outcomes of this modification are staggering. Jordan's car, which looks like an entry-level lease, is capable of a 0 to 60 mph sprint in roughly 2.8 seconds. That is faster than almost every gasoline-powered supercar produced in the last 20 years. And because it is all-wheel drive, the car achieves this result with zero tire smoke and zero drama. Let us look at another case study, the Lucid Air Pure. In 2026, the Lucid Air is often seen as a high-end luxury cruiser for the tech elite in Silicon Valley. The Pure is the entry-level trim, usually rear-wheel drive and possessing the least amount of power in the lineup. However, the 2026 models have moved to a standardized 900-volt architecture across all trims. This high voltage is the secret to the Q car's dominance. Higher voltage means lower current is required to produce the same amount of power, which in turn means less heat. Imagine if you were sitting at a light in a loud modified Mustang in downtown Los Angeles. Next to you is a Lucid Air Pure in a muted shade of silver. You assume it is a heavy luxury boat. But because of that 900-volt system and the efficiency of Lucid's proprietary permanent magnet motors, that silver sedan can sustain peak power for much longer than a traditional car. The psychology of this encounter is fascinating. When Jordan or a Lucid driver decides to move, there is no sensory warning. In a gasoline car, the engine revs first, providing a 1-second warning to everyone nearby that something is about to happen. In an EV sleeper, the car simply teleports. This creates a psychological gap where the opponent is still reacting to the green light, while the Q car is already 50 yards down the road. In the United States, where stoplight-to-stoplight acceleration is the primary form of street performance, this makes the electric sleeper the undisputed king of the boulevard. Furthermore, we must discuss the rise of the electric SUV sleeper. Take the Rivian R1S dual-motor performance. In 2026, the R1S is the ultimate mom car in upscale neighborhoods from Greenwich to Newport Beach. It is large, boxy, and usually filled with children and sports equipment. But the dual-motor performance variant utilizes an in-house developed motor system that delivers over 650 horsepower. Historical data on these vehicles shows that they are capable of out-accelerating a dedicated sports car while weighing 7,000 pounds. The technical detail that allows this heavy SUV to behave like a sleeper is the hydraulic roll control system. Instead of traditional anti-roll bars, the Rivian uses an interconnected hydraulic system that can instantly stiffen the suspension in a corner and soften it for a comfortable ride. This means that an R1S driver can execute a high-speed maneuver that would cause a traditional SUV to flip or lose control. To the person following behind, it looks like a massive school bus is performing physics-defying acrobatics with zero body roll. This is the quintessence of the Q car, exceeding expectations of what a specific body style is capable of doing. Thermal management is the final piece of this 2026 electric puzzle. In the past, the weakness of EVs was heat soak. After 1 or 2 hard runs, the battery would get too hot, and the computer would pull power to protect the cells. Modern sleepers have solved this using preconditioning. Jordan can use his phone to tell the car he is heading to a sanctioned drag strip. The car then uses its heat pump to either chill or warm the battery to exactly 113 degrees Fahrenheit, the chemical sweet spot for maximum discharge. It also chills the electric motors to their minimum operating temperature. This allows the car to deliver 100% of its potential from the very first second. The social impact of these silent killers is also part of their stealth. In many U.S. cities, noise ordinances are becoming stricter, and residents are more likely to report a loud car to the authorities. A Q car that makes no noise can operate at the limit of its performance without ever drawing a single complaint. It is the perfect tool for the enthusiast who wants to enjoy their machine without the social friction of the traditional car scene. But while the electric revolution is dominating the new car market, there is a lingering question. What about the soul? What about the cars that built this movement before batteries were even a consideration? There are legends from the 1990s and early 2000s that still roam the streets, cars that were so well hidden from the factory that they became urban myths. In the next part, we are going back in time to examine the old guard. We will look at the American factory sleepers that were built in limited numbers, often as a result of a few rogue engineers working in secret. We are talking about the trucks that could beat Ferraris and the sedans that looked like police cars but drove like NASCAR racers. What happens when we look at the GMC Cyclone and the Mercury Marauder through a modern lens? Stay with us as we uncover the mechanical fossils that still have the power to hunt in 2026. To understand the true DNA of the American Q car, we have to travel back to an era when engineers at the Big Three were quietly rebelling against the mundane. We are looking at the early 1990s, a period where the ghost of the muscle car era began to inhabit the bodies of utility vehicles and family sedans. In 2026, these vehicles are no longer just old cars. They are revered mechanical fossils that represent a pinnacle of factory-sanctioned deception. They were built in limited numbers, often against the better judgment of corporate accountants, and they remain some of the most effective tools for dominating U.S. streets today. Imagine a young enthusiast named Ethan in the rain-slick streets of Detroit in the year 2026. Ethan is not interested in the digital hum of a modern EV. He wants something with a soul, something that smells like gasoline and sounds like a thunderstorm. He finds a 1991 GMC Cyclone tucked away in a suburban garage. To the uninitiated, this is just a small, square black pickup truck from a forgotten era of General Motors. It has a basic interior, a plastic dashboard, and a bed that can barely haul a lawnmower. But Ethan knows the historical trends. In 1991, this truck was faster than a Ferrari 348 TS. The technical breakdown of the Cyclone is a masterclass in part bin sorcery. The engineers took a standard 4.3-liter V6 and transformed it into a monster. They added a Mitsubishi TD06-17C turbocharger and a Garrett liquid 2-air intercooler. But the secret sauce was the BorgWarner all-wheel drive transfer case, which split torque 35% to the front and 65% to the rear. This allowed the Cyclone to achieve a 0 to 60 mph time of just 4.3 seconds in 1991. In 2026, that still places it in the top tier of street performance. Ethan's case study is a reminder that while technology evolves, the physics of a light chassis paired with a high-torque, all-wheel drive system remain undefeated. The potential outcomes of launching a Cyclone at a stoplight are almost always the same: total confusion from the person in the adjacent lane who just got gapped by a 35-year-old truck. Step by step, the maintenance of a Cyclone in 2026 is a specialized endeavor. You are dealing with a vehicle that was significantly overstressed for its time. The 700R4 4-speed automatic transmission was the weak link. Ethan has to ensure the TV cable, the throttle valve cable, is perfectly adjusted, as a millimeter of slack can lead to burnt clutches within miles. He also has to monitor the intercooler pump, which is notorious for failing and causing intake temperatures to skyrocket, leading to engine knock. This is the reality of the old guard. You trade modern reliability for a level of character and stealth that no factory would dare produce today. Now shift your focus to the early 2000s and a character named Elena in Philadelphia. Elena drive sa 2003 Mercury Marauder. To the general public, this is a Grand Marquis, the quintessential car for a retired librarian or a Florida tourist. It is a massive body-on-frame sedan with a chrome grille and a soft ride. But the Marauder was the dark knight of the Panther platform. It was painted exclusively in black, silver, or maroon, and it featured 18-inch forged aluminum wheels. Under the hood sat a 4.6-liter 32-valve DOHC V8, a direct relative of the engine found in the Mustang Mach-1. The Marauder is a case study in the police interceptor lineage. Because it shared its chassis with the Ford Crown Victoria, it possessed a level of durability that few modern cars can match. Elena has modified her Marauder in 2026 by swapping the factory 3.55 rear gears for a set of 4.10s. This technical adjustment changes the car's personality entirely. It shortens the effective gearing, allowing the heavy sedan to stay in its power band longer during acceleration. Historical trends in the Panther community suggest that while these cars were not drag-strip titans from the factory, their potential for modification is nearly infinite. Elena has added a centrifugal supercharger, hidden neatly on the side of the engine block. From the outside, the car is silent. There are no hood scoops, no spoilers. Just a massive black sedan that sounds like a whisper until the throttle is pinned. We must also analyze the 1994 to 1996 Chevrolet Impala SS. This was the car that brought the full-size performance sedan back to the American consciousness. It was based on the Caprice 9C1 police package, meaning it came factory-equipped with heavy-duty suspension, cooling, and braking systems. The heart was the LT1 5.7-liter V8. While it was rated at 260 horsepower, the torque was a massive 330 pound-feet, available almost instantly. In 2026, the Impala SS is a favorite for the Q-car enthusiast because of its interstate presence. When people see the silhouette of a B-body Chevy in their rearview mirror, they instinctively move over, assuming it is an undercover officer. This psychological advantage is a key part of the sleeper experience. The engineering detail of the LT1 engine is fascinating. It utilized a unique reverse flow cooling system, where the coolant was sent to the cylinder heads first before the engine block. This allowed for higher compression ratios and more aggressive ignition timing without the risk of detonation. For a 2026 builder, this means they can run higher levels of boost or more aggressive cam profiles than a traditional small block Chevy. The Impala SS was a heavy vehicle, but its low-end torque made it feel effortless. It is the automotive equivalent of a freight train. Once it gets moving, its momentum is unstoppable. Then there is the Ford Taurus SHO, specifically the first and second generations. This car is perhaps the most unlikely sleeper in American history. It looks like a standard front-wheel drive family car. But when you pop the hood, you see a work of art. A 3.0-liter 24-valve V6 designed and built by Yamaha in Japan. The intake manifold looks like a collection of chrome snakes. It had an 8,000 revolutions per minute redline at a time when most American engines were struggling to reach 5,000. Historical data shows that the Taurus SHO was a disruptor. It offered European levels of engine sophistication in a chassis that was as American as apple pie. The technical secret of the SHO was its dual-stage intake manifold. Below 4,000 revolutions per minute, only one set of runners was open to maximize low-end torque. Above 4,000 revolutions per minute, the secondary runners opened up, allowing the engine to breathe and scream all the way to its redline. In 2026, finding a clean SHO is difficult, but for the Q-car enthusiast, it is the ultimate prize. It is a car that requires a high level of technical skill to maintain, specifically the valve lash adjustments, which are performed using shims, a process more common in motorcycles than in 1990s sedans. The old guard represents a philosophy of over-engineering and mechanical honesty. These cars were not designed by algorithms to minimize drag or maximize fuel economy. They were designed by people who love to drive. In 2026, as we move further into the era of autonomous vehicles and standardized electric platforms, the value of these mechanical rebels continues to rise. They remind us that the best way to hide in plain sight is to look like you're not even trying. But what happens when the factory goes even further? What if the sleeper isn't just a car with a big engine, but a vehicle designed specifically to be the most capable machine on the planet while looking completely invisible? We are moving from the legends of the 90s to the modern era of the ultimate utility. In the next part, we are going to look at the sleeper trucks and vans that are being used in 2026 to carry out high-speed long-distance runs across the United States. We are talking about the no-name builds, the white vans and plain pickup trucks that can outrun a police interceptor without ever looking out of place at a construction site. What is the secret to making a 3-ton van handle like a sports car? Stay tuned as we uncover the world of the industrial sleeper. The industrial sleeper is the ultimate manifestation of the hide in plain sight philosophy because it exploits the most common visual clutter on American roads: the service vehicle. In 2026, the United States is more connected than ever by logistics, last-mile delivery, and mobile trade services. Every street in every major city, from New York to San Francisco, is lined with high-roof vans and heavy-duty work trucks. This creates a massive psychological blind spot for both the general public and law enforcement. When the human brain sees a white Ford Transit or a Chevrolet Express with a ladder rack and a few scratches on the bumper, it immediately categorizes it as a low-threat, low-speed utility object. You don't look at the tires to see if they are high-performance compounds. You don't listen to the idle to check for a cam chop. You just move on. This is the invisibility cloak of the modern era. And for the Q-car enthusiast, it is the perfect canvas for a high-performance masterpiece. Imagine a character named Mike in Denver, Colorado. Mike is a 40-year-old contractor who spends his days hauling tools and materials. But Mike's 2024 Ford Transit 350 is not what it seems. To the neighbors, he is just a hardworking guy with a messy van. In reality, Mike has exploited the fact that his van is equipped with the 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6, an engine architecture that shares its fundamental DNA with the Ford GT supercar. Historical trends in the tuning community have shown that the EcoBoost platform is incredibly responsive to modification. Mike has swapped out the factory restrictive turbochargers for a pair of high-flow Garrett units. He has upgraded the fuel injectors and installed a massive, front-mounted intercooler that is hidden behind the standard black plastic grille. The technical challenge of building an industrial sleeper like Mike's is the physics of mass and momentum. A high-roof van has a high center of gravity, which usually makes high-speed maneuvers dangerous. To solve this, Mike has gone deep into the world of heavy-duty suspension engineering. He didn't just lower the van. He installed custom-valved coilovers originally designed for armored transport vehicles. These units are built to handle extreme weight while maintaining stability. He also added 32mm hollow sway bars and replaced every rubber bushing in the suspension with high-density polyurethane. The result is a 3-ton van that stays flat through the corners of a mountain pass. When Mike merges onto the I-70, he isn't just keeping up with traffic. He is effortlessly pulling away from sports cars that cost twice as much as his van and his tools combined. Step by step, the most important part of Mike's build is the cooling system. Moving a 6,000-pound brick through the air at 100 miles per hour generates an immense amount of heat. Mike installed an oversized radiator and a dedicated oil cooler with its own thermostatically controlled fan. This ensures that even on a hot July afternoon, his engine temperatures remain within the safe operating range. Potential outcomes of neglecting this would be catastrophic engine failure due to heat soak. By prioritizing thermal management, Mike has created a sleeper that can sustain high speeds for hundreds of miles, making it the perfect tool for crossing the vast distances of the American West. Now let us shift our focus to the world of diesel sleepers, a subculture that dominates the rural and industrial heartland of the U.S. Imagine a character named Sarah in Dallas, Texas. Sarah drives a 2026 Ram 2500. She has performed the ultimate act of visual deception by removing every single badge from the truck: the Ram heads, the 2,500 markers, and the Laramie emblems. She even replaced the painted front bumper with a basic, black plastic unit from a base model tradesman trim. Under the hood, however, is a 6.7-liter Cummins turbo diesel that has been pushed to its absolute mechanical limit. Sarah's build is a case study in high-torque engineering. She is running a compound turbo setup, where a smaller, quick-spooling turbocharger feeds into a massive secondary turbo. This allows for instant throttle response off the line while providing enough airflow to produce over 1,000 horsepower and an earth-shattering 1,800 pound-feet of torque. To handle this power, the transmission had to be completely rebuilt. Sarah utilized a heavy-duty 68 RFE build with billet input and output shafts and a multi-disc torque converter. Historical data suggests that factory diesel transmissions are the first point of failure when doubling the torque output, so this mechanical reinforcement is non-negotiable for a reliable sleeper. The genius of Sarah's truck is its utility. It still has the fifth-wheel hitch in the bed. It still has the mud flaps and the stock-looking exhaust tip. But because she installed an electronic cutout in the exhaust system, she can go from a quiet, neighborhood-friendly idol to a wide-open, screaming monster at the push of a button. In 2026, where sound ordinances are common in residential areas, this duality is a key feature of the Q-Car experience. It allows Sarah to enjoy the raw power of her machine without alerting everyone within a 5-mile radius to her activities. We also have to discuss the Chevrolet Express and GMC Savannah vans. These are the mechanical dinosaurs of the American road, having used the same basic chassis for decades. But for the sleeper builder, this is an advantage. These vans were built with the GM LS-based engine platform in mind. This means that a builder can take a 2015 Express van and relatively easily swap in a 6.2-liter L92 V8, or even a supercharged LT4 from a Cadillac CTS-V. Imagine a character named David in Miami. David's van is a 2018 Chevrolet Express 2500. It is painted a dull, faded white and has a few magnetic signs on the side for a fictional air conditioning repair company. Under the hood is a built 6.0-liter iron block engine with a massive, side-mounted centrifugal supercharger. David's technical masterclass involves the braking system. Stopping a heavy van from triple-digit speeds requires more than just stock rotors. David has adapted the 6-piston Brembo brakes from a wrecked Silverado EV, which feature massive 15-inch rotors. To hide these, he uses 20-inch steel wheels from a heavy-duty truck, which provide enough clearance for the brakes while maintaining the utilitarian look of a fleet vehicle. The psychology of the industrial sleeper is about managing expectations. When you see a Ferrari, you expect it to be fast. When you see a white van, you expect it to be slow. The Q-car builder thrives in the gap between those expectations. It is about the satisfaction of knowing that your vehicle is one of the most capable machines on the road, while everyone else sees it as a service tool. In the year 2026, as vehicles become more homogeneous and automated, the industrial sleeper remains a bastion of mechanical creativity and personal expression. But there is another level of the Q-car world that we haven't touched on yet. A level where the cars aren't modified in garages or built from work vans. These are the cars that come from overseas, the legends of Japan and Europe that were never officially sold in the United States. Thanks to the 25-year import rule, a new wave of legendary sleepers is finally hitting American shores in 2026. These are cars designed for the narrow streets of Tokyo and the high-speed stretches of the Autobahn, and they are about to change everything we know about the sleeper landscape. What happens when a 4-door family sedan from Japan comes factory-equipped with a twin-turbo engine from a legendary sports car? What are the specific models that the US government finally allowed us to drive? And why are they the ultimate choice for the enthusiast who wants something truly unique? In the next part, we are going to dive into the world of the imported assassins. We will look at the Toyota Chasers, the Nissan Stages, and the European wagons that are redefining the Q-car aesthetic on US soil. Get ready, because the next level of the deep dive is about to go global. The year 2026 marks a monumental shift in the American automotive landscape, because it officially unlocks the final year of the early millennium's Japanese and European performance peak. Under the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's 25-year rule, vehicles manufactured in 2001 are now legally exempt from the federal motor vehicle safety standards. For the Q-car enthusiast in the United States, this is the dawn of the imported assassin era. While the 1990s gave us legends like the Supra and the Skyline, it was the year 2001 that refined the sleeper into a surgical tool. These cars were designed for a Japanese executive class that demanded 0 to 60 times under 5 seconds, but required a vehicle that could be parked at a conservative corporate headquarters without drawing a single glance. Imagine a character named Julian in Seattle. Julian works in the tech sector, and in 2026 he decides to bypass the local used car market entirely. He looks toward the port of Tacoma, where a container has just arrived from Yokohama. Inside is his prize, a 2001 Toyota Crown Athlete V, chassis code JZS171. To any passerby in Washington state, this looks like a generic luxury sedan from the early 2000s, perhaps a Lexus GS that has been slightly modified. It has a boxy, dignified silhouette, muted silver paint, and an interior featuring authentic Japanese wool upholstery and lace seat covers. But Julian knows the historical trends. This is the ultimate factory sleeper. Under the hood of Julian's Crown sits the 1JV. This is a 2.5-liter, turbocharged inline-6 engine that is a direct sibling to the legendary 2JZ found in the Supra. The technical data for the 2001 model year is fascinating. Because of the Japanese gentleman's agreement, the car was officially rated at 276 horsepower, but real-world dynamometer testing often shows potential outcomes closer to 300 horsepower in stock form. More importantly, the VVT variable valve timing with intelligence allows the engine to produce massive amounts of low-end torque. Julian's car can achieve peak torque at just 2,400 revolutions per minute. In a real-world scenario on a Seattle highway, this means Julian doesn't need to downshift to leave a modern sports car behind. He simply leans into the throttle. The single CT15B turbocharger spools with a faint, metallic whistle, and the car surges forward with a smoothness that only an inline-6 can provide. The step-by-step process of importing such a machine in 2026 is a masterclass in bureaucratic navigation. Julian first had to secure an export certificate from the Japanese Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism. Then came the shipping logistics. Once the car hit the U.S. port, Julian had to file Department of Transportation Form H-7 and Environmental Protection Agency Form 3520-1. Because the car is over 25 years old, it is exempt from the rigorous EPA emissions testing that plagues newer imports. However, Julian still had to pay the 2.5% customs duty. The potential outcome of this effort is a vehicle that has more character and performance than a modern $30,000 sedan, all while remaining completely anonymous in American traffic. Let us shift our focus to a different kind of imported threat: the Nissan Stagea 260 RS Autech. Imagine a character named Marcus in Chicago. Marcus needs a car that can handle the brutal Midwestern winters, but also wants something that can dominate a drag strip. He finds a 2001 Stagea. From the side profile, the Stagea looks like a Volvo V70 or a large Subaru wagon. It is long, flat, and features a massive rear hatch. But the 260 RS Autech version is essentially an R33 Skyline GTR wearing a backpack. The engineering of the 260 RS is a case study in mechanical overkill. It houses the RB26 DTT engine, the twin turbocharged heart of the Godzilla. It utilizes the Atessa ETS all-wheel drive system and the Super Hikas four-wheel steering. In 2026, Marcus has taken this imported wagon and performed a stealth refresh. He has kept the factory silver paint and the original BBS forged wheels, but he has upgraded the turbochargers to modern ball bearing units that are hidden beneath the factory heat shields. The potential outcomes are staggering. Marcus has a family wagon that produces 500 horsepower at the wheels. When he is sitting at a light next to a high-end European SUV, the driver next to him sees an old Japanese wagon. They don't see the Brembo brakes hidden behind the spokes, or the intercooler peeking through the lower bumper. When the light turns green, the Stagea's all-wheel drive system claws into the Chicago asphalt, and Marcus is gone before the SUV's turbochargers have even started to spin. The technical depth of these JDM sleepers extends to their chassis rigidity. Even though they were family cars, the Japanese manufacturers in 2001 were using advanced spot welding techniques and structural reinforcements to ensure these high-performance variants could handle the stresses of the Wangan Highway. The Toyota Chaser JZX 100 and JZX 110 are prime examples. The JZX 110, which became legal for import in 2026, moved away from the more aggressive styling of the 90s toward a softer, more rounded aesthetic. This actually makes it a better Q car. To an American police officer, a 2001 JZX 110 Chaser looks like a generic mid-size sedan. It doesn't have the boy racer stigma attached to the Civic or the WRX. Now, let us move to the European side of the 2001 import wave. Imagine a character named Elena in Miami. She has imported a 2001 Audi RS4 Avant, the B5 generation. While the US received the S4, we were denied the wide-body twin-turbocharged RS4. This car was engineered by Cosworth. It features a 2.7-liter V6 with enlarged intake and exhaust ports, upgraded turbochargers, and a massive intercooler system. Elena's RS4 is painted in Avis Silver, a color that blends into the Miami heat. The only visual cues are the slightly flared wheel arches, which most people assume are just a styling choice. The data shows that this car could hit 60 miles per hour in 4.7 seconds. In the year 2001, in 2026, Elena has updated the engine management software to utilize modern fuel mapping. The result is a wagon that can humiliate modern performance cars while carrying a surfboard on the roof. The historical trend we are seeing in 2026 is the global sleeper exchange. Enthusiasts are no longer limited to what was sold in the local showroom. They are hunting for the specific production months and chassis codes that represent the best of global engineering. The step-by-step logic involves finding a vehicle that has been maintained in a shaken, the rigorous Japanese inspection system, ensuring that even though the car is 25 years old, its mechanical integrity is near perfect. But why does this matter now? Because in 2026, the invisibility factor has become the ultimate luxury. As modern cars become increasingly loud in their design language, with massive grilles and fake vents, the clean, understated lines of a 2001 Toyota or Audi offer a way to move through the world without being tracked or judged. Julian, Marcus, and Elena aren't just driving old cars. They are driving a secret. They are part of an underground network of enthusiasts who understand that the best performance is the performance that no one sees coming. However, even with these legendary imports, there is one final frontier of the Q car world that is often overlooked. It is a category of vehicles that are so common, so boring, and so invisible that they are the perfect candidates for the most extreme engine swaps in history. We are talking about the pensioner platforms. What happens when you take the most mundane car in the retirement community and give it the heart of a track monster? In the next part, we are going to explore the world of the senior sleeper. We will look at the Buicks, the Oldsmobiles, and the Lexuses that are being used to hide 1,000 horsepower builds. What is the most boring car you can think of? Chances are, someone in 2026 has already turned it into a supercar killer. Stay tuned as we uncover the final, most deceptive layer of the Q-car universe. The final frontier of the Q-car universe is the place where performance goes to hide in the most mundane, beige, and overlooked corners of American society. The retirement community. We call this the senior sleeper. In 2026, the psychological warfare of the sleeper car reaches its peak when the vehicle in question is a car that the average person assumes is being driven by someone who hasn't exceeded the speed limit since the late 1990s. While a modified sports car or an imported Japanese sedan carries a certain level of suspicion, a beige 2005 Buick LeSabre or a muted gold Lexus LS 430 is a total non-entity in the eyes of the law and the public. These are vehicles designed for maximum comfort, soft suspension, and absolute reliability. However, for the master builder, these platforms offer some of the most robust mechanical foundations ever engineered in the United States or Japan. Imagine a character named Arthur in the Villages, Florida. In the year 2026, Arthur is 72 years old, but his 2004 Buick Park Avenue Ultra is a wolf in sheep's clothing. From the outside, it is pristine. It has the factory chrome wheels, a hood ornament, and a box of tissues sitting on the rear parcel shelf. To the local police, Arthur is just another retiree heading to an early dinner. But under the hood of that Buick is the legendary 3800 Series 2 supercharged V6. Historical trends in American engineering show that the 3800 is one of the most durable engines ever produced by General Motors. It features an iron block, a simple overhead valve design, and a factory-installed Eaton M90 supercharger. The technical deep dive into Arthur's build reveals a masterclass in low-cost, high-impact modification. The first step-by-step upgrade is the pulley swap. By reducing the size of the supercharger pulley from the stock 3.8 inches to a 3.4 or even 3.2-inch version, the supercharger spins faster at the same engine RPM, creating significantly more boost pressure. To manage the potential outcomes of increased heat, Arthur has installed a modular pulley system and a larger intercooler core that fits discreetly behind the Buick's waterfall grille. He has also upgraded the fuel injectors to 42-pound units to ensure the engine doesn't run lean under heavy load. The result is a car that looks like a cloud but accelerates with the force of a modern muscle car. Because the 3800 is so quiet, Arthur can achieve these speeds without the high-pitched whine that usually accompanies a supercharger, thanks to a custom-fabricated intake silencer. Moving across the country to a suburb in Scottsdale, Arizona, we find a character named Nancy. Nancy drives a 2005 Lexus LS 430 in Millennium Silver. In the year 2026, this car is over 20 years old, yet it still represents the pinnacle of Japanese luxury engineering. The LS 430 is famous for being one of the quietest cars ever made, with a drag coefficient of just 0.25. But the secret to this Q car is the 3UZFE 4.3-liter V8 engine. Historical data from the tuning community suggests that the UZ family of engines is essentially the V8 equivalent of the 2JZ. They feature forged steel crankshafts and incredibly strong connecting rods, allowing them to handle significant levels of forced induction on factory internal components. Nancy's case study is a lesson in precision stealth. She has installed a custom twin turbocharger system, but the engineering is hidden entirely within the lower engine bay. The turbochargers are mounted low, near the transmission, in a configuration often called a mid-mount setup. This keeps the engine bay looking completely stock when the hood is opened. The exhaust gases are routed through a series of high-flow resonators that maintain the Lexus's signature silence at idle. However, when Nancy merges onto the Loop 101, the wastegates remain closed until the last possible second, allowing the turbos to spool up and deliver 550 wheel horsepower to the rear tires. The technical challenge for Nancy was the transmission. The factory A650E 5-speed automatic is a masterpiece of smoothness, but was never designed to handle double its factory torque. Nancy's solution involved a step-by-step rebuild using high-capacity friction plates and a modified valve body to sharpen the shift points. In 2026, she uses a wireless OBD2 interface that connects to her smartphone, allowing her to change the transmission's behavior from grandma mode to track mode with a single tap. This level of digital integration in a 20-year-old car is the hallmark of the modern Q car builder. Another legendary senior sleeper platform is the Oldsmobile Aurora. In the mid-90s and early 2000s, Oldsmobile was trying to reinvent itself as a high-tech luxury brand. The Aurora featured a 4.0-liter L47 V8, which was a slightly smaller displacement version of the Cadillac Northstar engine. While the Northstar had a reputation for head gasket issues, the 4.0-liter version was remarkably stout. Imagine a builder in 2026 taking this futuristic-looking sedan and utilizing its rigid G-platform chassis to create a high-speed cruiser. The potential outcomes of an Aurora build include a car that feels like a private jet on the highway, capable of sustained high speeds with almost zero wind noise, all while being completely ignored by everyone on the road. We must also discuss the interior camouflage that makes these senior sleepers so effective. A true Q-car enthusiast in 2026 doesn't just focus on the engine, they focus on the theater of the cabin. Arthur's Buick still has the beaded seat covers that many elderly drivers use for back support. Nancy's Lexus has a dashboard cover to protect against the Arizona sun. These visual cues are powerful psychological anchors. When an observer sees these items, their brain immediately closes the file on that car. They stop looking for performance indicators. This allows the sleeper driver to operate with a level of freedom that a Porsche or Ferrari driver could only dream of. The maintenance of these aging platforms is also a critical part of the deep dive. In 2026, rubber components like vacuum lines, bushings, and motor mounts on 20-year-old cars are reaching the end of their lifespan. A professional sleeper builder performs a 0-mile refresh. This involves a step-by-step. Are you ready to see the car that can outrun a Bugatti while looking like a suburban commute? The conclusion of our masterclass is about to redefine what you think is possible on four wheels. What is the ultimate invisible icon that dominates the American road in 2026? Stay tuned for the final part of uncovering the world of Q cars. The ultimate invisible icon that dominates the American road in 2026 is the Toyota Camry. It is the most successful, most ubiquitous, and most ridiculed family sedan in the history of the United States. For decades, the Camry has been the punchline of every joke about boring suburban existence. It is the car you buy when you have given up on excitement and prioritize resale value and fuel economy above all else. But in 2026, the Q car community has reclaimed this beige throne. The current generation of Camry, specifically the versions equipped with the 2GRFKS V6 engine, represents the absolute pinnacle of factory-sanctioned stealth. Imagine a character named Brandon in a quiet suburb of Columbus, Ohio. Brandon is a 29-year-old software developer who drives what appears to be a 2024 Toyota Camry LE. It is finished in a color Toyota called Celestial Silver Metallic, which is essentially the automotive equivalent of camouflage in a sea of gray asphalt. It has the basic 17-inch alloy wheels, the standard halogen-style headlight signature, and a single hidden exhaust tip. When Brandon pulls into his driveway, the neighbors see a sensible young professional who is making smart financial choices. They do not see the mechanical beast that is currently terrorizing the local highway system. The technical deep dive into Brandon's Camry begins with the 3.5-liter V6 engine. From the factory, this engine produces 301 horsepower and 267 pound-feet of torque. In a car that weighs roughly 3,500 pounds, that is already more performance than the average commuter knows how to handle. However, historical trends in the tuning world show that the 2GRFKS is a mechanical masterpiece of durability. It utilizes Toyota's D4S system, which features both direct and port fuel injection. This dual injection strategy is the key to its potential as a sleeper. The port injectors keep the intake valves clean from carbon buildup, while the direct injectors allow for precise fuel delivery and high compression ratios. Brandon's step-by-step masterclass in deception involved a total LE conversion. He started with a top-tier XSE V6 model, which comes with aggressive bumpers, quad exhaust tips, and a rear spoiler. He then systematically removed every single performance indicator. He swapped the XSE bumpers for the smoother, more anonymous LE units. He replaced the quad-tip exhaust with a custom-fabricated silent system that utilizes a high-flow muffler designed for a luxury SUV, ending in a single downturn tip that is invisible from behind the car. He even replaced the leather-trimmed XSE seats with the cloth versions from a base-model rental car, to ensure that even a passenger would have no idea they were sitting in a high-performance machine. But the real magic is happening under the hood. Brandon has exploited the Lotus connection. For years, the British sports car manufacturer Lotus has used Toyota's V6 engines in their high-performance models like the Evora and the Emira. Because of this, there is a massive secondary market for high-performance components designed specifically for this engine. Brandon has installed a TVS 1900 supercharger kit, originally intended for a Lotus, but adapted for the Camry's transverse engine layout. This requires a custom-machined intake manifold and a dedicated cooling loop. The potential outcomes of this modification are a staggering 450 horsepower at the front wheels. Managing this power in a front-wheel drive sedan is a case study in traction engineering. To prevent the car from simply spinning its tires and creating a cloud of smoke, the ultimate giveaway of a sleeper, Brandon has installed a Quaife limited slip differential inside the 8-speed automatic transmission. This mechanical unit uses a series of helical gears to automatically shift torque to the wheel with the most grip. He also utilizes a set of cheater slicks, high-performance street-legal tires that have a tread pattern that looks identical to a standard all-season tire, but uses a much softer, stickier compound. The software integration is the final piece of Brandon's 2026 puzzle. He uses a custom-tuned transmission control unit, TCU, map that allows the 8-speed gearbox to hold gears longer and shift with a firmness that the factory never intended. He also has a valet mode programmed into his infotainment system. If he ever has to hand the keys to someone else, he can remotely limit the engine's output to 150 horsepower and cap the top speed at 60 miles per hour. This ensures that his secret remains safe, even when the car is out of his sight. The psychology of the Camry sleeper is based on the background noise effect. In 2026, the American road is so saturated with Camrys that the human brain has stopped processing them as individual objects. It is the ultimate expression of the Q car, because it operates in a state of total social invisibility. When Brandon is cruising at 80 miles per hour on the interstate, he is just part of the scenery. If he needs to accelerate to 120 to pass a slow-moving convoy, the car does it with a silent, effortless surge of power that doesn't trigger the threat response in other drivers. They don't see a racer, they see a Camry in a hurry. We must also analyze the data regarding the long-term potential outcomes of these builds. Because the Camry is built on Toyota's TNGA-K platform, which is shared with the Avalon and the Lexus ES, the chassis is incredibly rigid. This allows for a level of high-speed stability that is rare in the mid-size sedan segment. By upgrading the factory struts to a set of custom valve dampers that retain the original ride height, Brandon has created a car that handles like a sports sedan but rides like a luxury cruiser. This is the essence of the Masterclass. Performance that does not compromise the original mission of the vehicle. As we conclude this deep dive into the world of Q cars, we have to recognize that the movement is more than just a collection of modified vehicles. It is a philosophy of restraint, a rebellion against the look-at-me culture of the modern era, and a tribute to the art of engineering. In the United States of 2026, where every car seems to be shouting for attention with massive grills and fake engine noises, the Q car represents a silent, powerful alternative. It is the realization that the most dangerous person in the room is often the one who says the least. The future of the sleeper car is currently being written in garages across America. As we move toward a world of total electrification and autonomous driving, the window for these mechanical sleepers is closing. But for now, the streets belong to the invisible. Whether it is a supercharged Camry in Ohio, a twin-turbo Lexus in Arizona, or a salvage-yard Volvo in Phoenix, the Q car continues to dominate because it refuses to play by the rules of visual prestige. It proves that true power doesn't need a badge, a wing, or a loud exhaust. It only needs a green light and a driver who knows exactly what is hidden under the hood. This concludes our masterclass on the world of Q cars. You now have the blueprints, the case studies, and the engineering principles to identify and understand the most deceptive machines on the US streets. But the world of automotive subcultures is vast, and the sleeper is just the beginning. There is an even more secretive world of electronic ghosting, the cars that are being modified to disappear not just from sight, but from the digital sensors of the 2026 smart city infrastructure. What happens when a car becomes invisible to the network itself? That is a story for another time. The road is open and the sleepers are waiting. Keep your eyes on the beige sedans and never assume the car in the next lane is as boring as it looks.